do something very good for ourselves and for, stability in the global system. But I do not want to underestimate the landmines,
Yeah.
that lie along the way. And what you've seen in the last few weeks is a very cautionary reminder about these perpetual landmines which haven't disappeared.
On that sobering note, we'll end this very illuminating interview. Thank you very much, Dr. Tellis. All the very best, and grateful for your time here on NDTV, helping us demystify, navigate, and understand one of the intriguing relationships, perhaps, of our time. Thank you so much for being with us.
Thank you so much for having me.
Well, that's a wrap on India Matters. Thanks so much for watching. Maria, my friend, is up next, and she's just scored the big political smasher interview of the season. Total blockbuster, Maria.
Yes, and we have other big blockbusters also lined up, Shiv.
Yeah.
3 top legal eagles will be speaking to NDTV in just some time from now. Good evening, this is Left, Right and Centre, and I'm Maria Shakil. We have a power-packed show lined up for you with top newsmakers. First up, the politician who we all want to hear from. Dr. Shashi Tharoor has spoken to NDTV on leading the multi-party delegation to the United States post-Operation Sindoor. And what does he have to say about the lunch meet between Field Marshal Asim Munir and US President Donald Trump? And also Donald Trump's repeated claim on him brokering the ceasefire between India and Pakistan. Coming up also would be a legal heavyweights of the country on the probe panel report on Justice Yashwant Verma. The report says that there is enough proof to call for his removal. We have the former Solicitor General Harish Salve, former Attorney General Mukul Rohatgi, and senior advocate Mahesh Jethmalani. All of them will be sharing their views on this probe panel report. But first up, our big exclusive with Dr. Shashi Tharoor. Hello everyone and welcome to this special conversation. We are being joined by Dr. Shashi Tharoor, senior Congress leader and veteran parliamentarian. Dr. Shashi Tharoor has been on a whirlwind tour of multiple countries, leading the government of India's charge in convincing the countries around the globe with regards to Operation Sindoor. But Dr. Shashi Tharoor has also been traveling post that, so it has been very difficult to catch hold of you, Dr. Tharoor. So thank you so much for giving time on NDTV. You have emerged as the biggest backer of Operation Sindoor and the harshest critic of Pakistan. Dr. Tharoor, how do you look at the lunch meet which happened between General Asim Munir and US President Donald Trump?
Well, as you know, the White House spokeswoman said that this is since General Munir had recommended Mr. Trump for a Nobel Peace Prize, it was a thank you gesture, which is entirely, fine. I mean, as far as I'm concerned, if Mr. Trump wants to call somebody for lunch because he was recommended for a Nobel Peace Prize, who are we to question that, Maria?
But Dr. Tharoor, that happened hours after Prime Minister Modi and Donald Trump's telephonic conversation, which lasted roughly around 35 minutes, in which Prime Minister Modi clearly, categorically spoke about how India never sought any third-party mediation and will not do so in future, setting the record straight.
Absolutely. And I think that message is something that we also, in our delegations, conveyed very clearly to our American interlocutors. I myself had the privilege of speaking to Vice President Vance, and though so far we have not gone public about the conversation, now that the Prime Minister has publicly announced that this is what he has said to the President, I can convey to you that I said exactly the same thing to the Vice President, who understood it fully. And there was absolutely no disagreement or pushback from their side. They fully understood that mediation is not something that we in India can accept. The very idea of mediation implies an equivalence between two parties who need to be mediated between. But there is no mediation possible, no equivalence possible between terrorists and their victims. There is no equivalence between a country that dispatches terrorists across the border and a country acting in self-defense. And this message was understood clearly by everyone we spoke to, not just the vice president. We also met with the deputy secretary of state. We met with a very important cross section of senators and congressmen. And in every single case, this message was made crystal clear. So I can assure you that what we are hearing today is exactly the Indian stand. It is a stand that India and India's delegations have taken consistently. And I might add that we have taken in previous conflicts also. I mean, the truth is that in 65 and 71, you already saw an evolution. 65 war ended with a third country's involvement in the Tashkent thing. But in 71, as you know, the similar discussions were only India and Pakistan. And the conclusion was all dealings between our two countries would be bilateral, and we've stuck to that. India, since then, has taken a very strong view that we have no difficulty talking to Pakistan. We speak all the languages they speak. The problem is the one language we don't speak and won't listen to is the language of terrorism. So when they inflict terrorism upon us, we will meet force with force, is the clear message we're giving to the Pakistanis and to anybody else who will listen. Secondly, Maria, you must remember that Operation Sindoor advertised its intentions from the very start. And here I'm not revealing anything that's confidential. It was in the briefings by the government. The morning after Operation Sindoor, they said very clearly that this is an act of retribution against terrorists. We've been very careful not to hit any Pakistani government sites, not even any Pakistani military sites. We have only hit terrorist bases that are well-known, well-established, and that too of organizations that have been proscribed by the United Nations Committee and that were also on the US State Department's terrorist wanted list. So there was absolutely nothing on our side that made this an Indo-Pakistan conflict. It was an India versus terrorism action. And what we said very clearly to everybody who listened to us in all the countries we went to was, don't make this an issue of India-Pakistan. Don't make this an issue of Kashmir. It is only an issue of terrorism versus our right to defend ourselves against terrorists. And believe me, we got full understanding everywhere. You know that the country of Colombia withdrew an earlier statement they had issued in which they had expressed sympathy for quote-unquote Pakistani victims, once they understood the context in which we had acted. And thereafter, in every country we went to, I can assure you that there was full understanding for our position. So I just want to stress, India has taken a very clear stand. We are only reacting against terrorism. We said to the world that if Pakistan chooses to hit us because we have taken retributive action against terrorism, if they've hit us, we're going to hit them back, and we'll hit them back as hard as we can. But if they stop, we will stop. And the moment they stopped, we stopped. That is very clearly what occurred. So I just want to stress to you that as far as we were concerned, there was no question of us needing to be persuaded to stop. You see, mediation is when two sides are fighting and somebody comes in the middle and says, please don't fight and we'll give you this and that. No such thing happened. We said from the very beginning that we would stop the moment Pakistan stopped. They signaled to our Director General of Military Operations they wanted to stop. We said, fine, we're also ready to stop. As far as the Americans are concerned, they may well have felt that they have put pressure on the Pakistanis, which is something you and I don't know because we don't know what the Americans said to the Pakistanis. But if that is the thing, that the Pakistanis were, contemplating a nuclear option or something dramatic, and the Americans told the Pakistanis, don't do that and press them, and thereby the general thinks that Mr. President Trump should deserve the Nobel Peace Prize because he prevented him from using dangerous weapons, whatever. If that's the story, that's between the Americans and the Pakistanis. I don't think we in India should sit here worrying about what they said to each other. All we know is that the Pakistanis called us, and the Pakistanis, having taken a real bashing on the night of the 9th, 10th of May, they wanted to stop. So that's the story that we understand. That's the story to which we are privy.
Okay. Dr. Tharoor, because Donald Trump continues to reiterate that and repeat his claims that he was the one who brokered ceasefire. As a former diplomat yourself, do you see this deceptive diplomacy hurting or helping India?
No, I don't think it's this diplomacy at all. I think it's Mr. Trump expressing his understanding of something in which, frankly, as far as we are concerned, he was not directly involved. The people who called our foreign minister, called our national security advisor, and there was one call to our prime minister, are all known to us. They did not include any personal call from President Trump during Operation Sindoor. So, President Trump honestly has every sort of right to speak for himself, and none of us can decide to put words into the mouth of a foreign president or indeed to challenge what he says. I think one of the reasons that India stayed silent.
Dr. Tharoor, there are many in the opposition and also within your own political party, the Congress, who are attacking the Prime Minister with regards to the ceasefire. And they are demanding an explanation, perhaps a special session. What are your thoughts? Do you think there is a need for the Prime Minister and the BJP to brief the audience here as well, the politicians and various political parties here in India?
Personally, in any democracy, I believe it's always healthy to confide in the public, confide in the opposition, and doing so in a session of parliament would obviously be a healthy thing. So that's not something that I dissent from. But having said that, on this particular issue of the ceasefire, it seems to me that the position of the Indian government was telegraphed from day one. I was watching television like everybody else, watching the briefings by the foreign secretary and the two military officers. And from the very first day, the statements were unambiguous. We are avoiding creating conditions for a war. If they decide to hit us, we will hit back. But we have no desire to prolong this. We will stop the moment they stop. This was said every single day of those 4 days. So when indeed the stoppage came, it was not a surprise to me. I'm surprised that some people were surprised. I did see that some of the sort of passionate right wing in our country were exercised, and they wanted the war to continue and to decimate Pakistan and so on. But the fact is that the intention of the action had never been directed that way. And indeed, we in the delegations were saying to our foreign countries, we were not going to war with Pakistan. We were going to war against terrorists. This was essentially an action against terrorism. And it was very much to be seen in the frame of counterterrorism. We took action against known sites of terrorist organizations, identified terrorist organizations, and at the same time, we sent the message that if there are terrorist attacks on our country, there will be a price to pay. That's essentially what it was all about.
Okay.
And to my mind, therefore, to try and make this into an Indo-Pakistan issue, to make this into something that has to do with perennial disputes between the two countries and so on, this is absolutely not the case.
Okay.
We were taking action on well-announced grounds, and that we had telegraphed very clearly to the world and to the Indian public, whoever was listening to television, exactly what we were doing in the spirit in which we were doing it. So, to my mind, there was no doubt when we stopped that we had to stop.
Okay.
If the
Dr. Tharoor,
Pakistanis asked for a stoppage,
okay,
and we said, no, we want to continue, that would have changed the entire thing. It would no longer have been possible to defend this as a pure counterterrorism operation. It would then have become a full-scale war between the two countries. But we had never signaled such an intention.
Last
We had
question.
consistently signaled the opposite.
Last couple of questions, Dr. Tharoor. Political observers say that you and your party are drifting apart. You also spoke about difference of opinion today. How will you define the relationship with the Congress today? Your relationship with the Congress party today?
Listen, I'm very much somebody who has stayed in the Congress party and loyal to it for the last 16 years. Many of my own colleagues and party workers know that the very close bonds we have. In fact, the question came up in the context of a Malayalam question about the by-election taking place in the part of the place called Nilambur in Kerala. And I said that I wish the Congress candidate well. I wish him all success. He is a friend of mine. In fact, I think that as far as I'm concerned, there is no doubt that the hard work of the Congress workers deserves the reward of victory. And that as far as I'm concerned, the fact that the Congress, as an institution, the Congress's values and the role of its workers, these are all things I hold very close to my heart, that if there are any differences of opinion, it has only been with some elements of the leadership. I don't want to go on beyond that because this is hardly the time to be discussing such matters. I said if there are any differences, they can be discussed behind closed doors between the people concerned. And that's precisely where I wish to leave it. I have absolutely no desire to discuss internal politics at this time, and particularly in the context of the questions that you've been asking.
All right,
Thanks
Dr.
very much,
Shashi
Maria.
Tharoor, thank you so much
All the best
for your time here on NDTV. Now on to the next big story, the case of pile of cash which was found at the house of former Delhi High Court Judge Yashwant Verma. That happened back in March. Now, a 3-member panel of senior judges has recommended the removal of Justice Yarma. The panel has said that there is enough evidence of cash at the judge's house. It has further added that there is strong inferential evidence of cash removal. Remember, this was a 3-judge committee which has also concluded now that the cash was removed early morning on March 15th. NDTV has accessed the panel's report, and let me take you through some of the incriminating findings in the 64-page report. The committee holds that the money cash was found in the storeroom located within the premises of 30 Tughlaq Crescent, New Delhi, occupied by Justice Yarma, the source of which could not be accounted for by Justice Yarma. Moving on to another damning part of this report. Access to the storeroom was with Justice Yarma and his family members, and well monitored without any outsiders getting access to it without permission. The probe committee, in fact, recorded testimonies of 55 witnesses, and one of the witnesses has actually said, and this is witness number 8, Bhavar Singh, who is the driver of the Delhi Fire Services. He says, as I entered, I noticed the right-hand side, and in front there was a large pile of cash, only of rupees 500 lying on the floor. I was shocked and surprised at such large amounts of cash thrown on the floor. I saw this for the first time in my life. So finally, what really is the conclusion? Looking at this now, the committee is firmly of the view that there is sufficient substance in the allegations raised by the Chief Justice of India, then CJI Sanjeev Kumar, and the misconduct found proved is serious enough to call for initiation of proceedings for removal of Justice Yashwant Yarma. Remember, the indication that has come in from the government is that there will be impeachment proceedings which will be initiated against Justice Yarma during the upcoming monsoon session, which begins next month. So what now in this case? Former Solicitor General of India, Harish Salve, is joining us live. Mr. Salve, I really appreciate your time, sir. The 3-member judge panel, these were all senior judges, sir. They have submitted their report and they nailed Justice Yarma. Would you then say that this is an open and shut case? And what happens to the impeachment proceedings? What, according to you, is the way forward, sir?
Of course, there is an immediate problem. The immediate problem is how is Justice Yashwant Yarma going to be dealt with in a manner that restores some semblance of credibility which has been damaged by this unfortunate incident. But there is a larger problem also. It's the elephant in the room which nobody is willing to talk about. And that is where have our systems gone wrong? There are 2 things which need to be considered. Why has this problem come to pass? Just think of this, Maria. If this kind of incident had happened with somebody who was a civil servant or somebody who was in political life, by now the whole institution, including the Supreme Court, would have been thinking in terms of special investigation teams and CBI and accountability and monitored investigation. And the court should not create an impression thereby that where it is one of their own, a different set of rules apply. If this had been the house of a minister where this incident had taken place, would it have been enough to say that the minister must now resign and go away? Or by now the media would have been screaming, why is the minister not in jail, correct? So if a public servant has been found with such large amounts of unaccounted cash, what happens to the criminal justice system of the country? That's one question which looms large. Now you have the Ramaswamy judgment, where Supreme Court said you cannot lodge a complaint a police complaint without the permission of the Chief Justice of India. That was a makeshift arrangement till a proper institutional mechanism was set up. Unfortunately, the institutional mechanism which was set up has been trashed by the Supreme Court itself, and they struck down the NJSA. And you have now no institutional mechanism by which accountability is ensured. The second is impeachment. Impeachment continues to be in its old form in the process of parliamentary domain. And there again, the judge will be entitled to, a committee will have to be formed, the judge will be entitled to a hearing, post-impeachment. If you remember in the Ramaswamy case, Mr. Sibal went and appeared to defend Ramaswamy in Parliament. And he argued for 2 hours, 3 hours in Parliament. I don't know if the judge insists on his right for Parliament to hear him, that will have to be done. So, and why? Just because he's a judge. So what I'm saying is impeachment was not meant to deal with problems like this. Today, there is a large amount of cash. Does the Prevention of Corruption Act not apply? It does. What happens if there is unaccounted cash? The presumption of the law is it's deemed to be unaccounted money under the Prevention of Corruption Act, unless you can explain the source. Now, why is the law of the country not taking its course? Why are we even discussing this on TV? Why is there a question of what will happen now? Would there be a doubt if it was any other citizen? And this is the real problem of this case. We have tied ourselves in knots. The judges, I'm sorry to say, have tied themselves in knots. Yes, they've done it out of good intention to protect the independence of judges. But what about protecting the integrity of the system? It is now established that this whole collegium system, it doesn't act with alacrity. How old is the incident now? The incident happened, in November or December or sometime like that? We are now in May.
Mr. Salve, as you pointed out rightly, it has been 3 months. Then what should be done? Should there be a criminal proceeding based on this report, and because this is a panel which was set up by the Supreme Court itself, or can there be only the impeachment proceedings which is scheduled for the next month when the monsoon session of Parliament begins?
Let me be very clear. First of all, after 3 judges, committee has found Justice Yarma to be prima facie guilty. I'm deliberately using the words prima facie, of possessing unaccounted cash. What is the delay in now allowing the CBI to register a case and investigate it like any other act of corruption? And that has to be the basis for the impeachment. And it is well settled that civil and criminal proceedings can run side by side. So if the law of the land applies to you, I mean, don't we always use that famous epithet, howsoever high you may be, the law is above you? Why is that not in play? And they should do it. And what are we waiting for? I mean, unfortunately, impeachment is the only process we have, so we have to work it. But I think there has to be a debate in the country. Do we need to revive the collegium?
Yes.
Do we need to revisit the Supreme Court judgment by which Supreme Court said any interference with the collegium system takes away from the independence of judges? And where are we left today? We are left with a dysfunctional system.
Yes, that's right, sir. You have raised a number of questions, particularly with regards to the appointment of these judges. Do you think the cleaning up of the judiciary has to happen from within, or the executive legislature, as they have clearly intervened, as legislature will be conducting the impeachment proceedings? Then what happens to the separation of powers?
See, the power to amend the constitution is only with Parliament. Okay, so if Parliament has to make a law, it's only Parliament which can amend the constitution to put an institutional mechanism in place for judicial accountability. So there is no question of distance between the institutions. Parliament will be doing its job. And I remember a very powerful statement made in a very gentle voice by the then Attorney General Shri Lal Narayan Sinha, who's one of the most respected lawyers, a lawyer who I've really looked up to. When I was appearing with Mr. Balkhiwala in the Minerva Mills case, which challenged 42nd Amendment, and you know what Mr. Lal Narayan Sinha said? He said it is true that without the Supreme Court, the freedoms in the Constitution cannot survive. But he said, don't ever forget, without Parliament, democracy and the Supreme Court will not survive. So each institution has its place, and the primacy of Parliament has to be recognized. Except in narrow cases where the Supreme Court finds an act of Parliament to be unconstitutional, each institution must have its place. And where it comes to making laws, Parliament and Parliament alone makes laws. So there is no question of being a judge in its own cause. Doesn't the Supreme Court decide cases involving people in public life? Doesn't the Supreme Court decide cases involving judges? So that's not an argument. Parliament has to address A, the problem of Justice Yarma, B, the problem of a system which has become so dysfunctional that 4 months or 5 months after the incident, we are discussing what should happen next. Nobody knows. No, there's no clarity on what is to happen next. So, on that question, on what you've asked me just now, on that doesn't, as they say, the tail hangs on that question, right? We are in a situation where we don't know what to do with this. Why? Would you be asking me this question if cash had been found in a minister's house, if cash had been found in a secretary to the government's house? No. Why are you asking me this question when it comes to a judge? That's the point which we need to address.
So let me ask that question to our next guest. Harish Salve, really appreciate your time. Thank you so much. Mukul Rohatgi, former Attorney General of India, is joining us now. Mr. Rohatgi, the 3 judges panel report accessed by NDTV has 2 very damning paragraphs. And I'm going to quote a part of this, and it says very clearly, access to the storeroom was with the justice and his family members and was well monitored without any outsiders getting access without permission. And then it goes on to say that highly suspicious items and not small denomination could not have been placed without the active consent of Justice Yarma or his family. This is a 64-page report, sir. Where do we go from here onwards? Where is judiciary headed?
Now, Maria, I have read the report and I have great regard for the 3 judges, their intelligence and integrity. That's not in question. But I must regret that after going through the report, I am convinced that the conclusions of the report cannot stand for more than 5 minutes in a court of law or in a properly constituted inquiry under the impeachment motion mode. And why do I say that? Now, Maria, let me pose a few questions. Number 1, how much was the currency? Number 2, how much was burnt and how much was unburnt? Number 3, whether the notes were genuine or fake. Number 4, why did not the police / fire brigade seize the currency? Number 5, why was not an FIR or at least a preliminary inquiry registered? Why was not any investigation done? Why and how did the police not report it immediately, in as much as why was action not taken? Why, after it was brought to the notice of the Chief Justice the next morning, how come the judge was sitting in court for 5 days Why did not the Chief Justice react? And finally, I have actually seen the house where the judge was residing. My brother-in-law, former judge of Delhi High Court, Vipin Sandhi, was living in that house. So I am pretty familiar with that house. They are 1-acre houses. The storeroom was a makeshift kind of a room. It is not a part of the living quarters of the judge. The rear entry to all those Lodi estate houses or Tughlaq Road houses was never manned. Who has kept the money? Nobody knows. I mean, there are so many questions which arise which are unanswered that you just damn a judge and his reputation built over maybe 30 years. A judge with impeccable integrity till date, belonging to a line of succession of judges. But I find it very hard to believe. And Maria, let me tell you my own experience. When I was Attorney General, I was living in 10 Motilal, Nehru Marg, next to the Taj Hotel.
Okay, sir.
It had 8-7 quarters at the back, spread over at least half an acre. Maybe in my 3 years there, I went at the back once or twice. I never knew how many people were living, what were their families, who were their visitors, what is the kind of money or bags or other equipment they kept. Nobody knows. So I mean to say that if somebody kept money or somebody murdered somebody at the back, would I be an accessory to that murder because it was in my house? I mean, it is absolutely astounding that such a report has been given merely on the basis of some presumption. This report is not based even on preponderance of evidence or of a standard which is beyond reasonable doubt. That is the standard of our criminal jurisprudence. According to me, this report falls completely short of this standard. But the reputation of the judge is damned. And let me be practical. Whether the judge goes through the motion of impeachment or not, his reputation is finished. And even if he is exonerated, there is no way that he can be a judge once again. These are my thoughts which I wanted to share with you and the public.
Mr. Rohatgi, you have raised a number of questions and answers to that we do not have at the moment. And you also say, sir, that this report won't stand in the court because there are a number of presumptions. The 3 senior judges have also recorded eyewitness testimonies in this report, and they're quoting in these 64 pages. If you feel that there are several missing pieces in this puzzle, then shouldn't that be investigated? And what do you have to say that if you feel that Justice Varma's reputation has been completely damned, then what should Justice Varma and his family do now as the impeachment proceedings is likely to happen next month?
Look, there can be an investigation, but this investigation done by this judges committee, which is an in-house committee, it has no legal standing. It is only a committee formed by Parliament post admission of a motion for impeachment. It is only that committee which is recognized as a committee in law. So, if the judge is to go through the impeachment motion, it is that committee which will examine all witnesses and may come to a finding. As far as this report is concerned, it is only based on presumptions. It is not based on any standard of proof or of beyond reasonable doubt. So it's up to the judge now. He can face the inquiry. The inquiry under the impeachment motion will be of 3 judges, including a judge sitting or retired of the Supreme Court of India. That will be a proper quasi-judicial inquiry. It will examine all this material, all this evidence with a right of cross-examination to the delinquent. So the judge can have his own lawyer who can conduct cross-examination if he wants to be exonerated and clear his name. Now that is all that is left, for the honorable judge to do. I mean, then the law will take its own course. Let's see what happens.
Okay, Mr.
Depending on
Rohatgi,
what course he wants to follow.
sir, there are 55 witnesses, according to this report. Their testimonies were recorded and they were examined. You are of the opinion that that this doesn't have any legal, it won't stand in the court of law. Then how should this entire process be seen?
I want to know what is the conclusion of the report. Who would have kept the money there? 55 witnesses did not say who brought the money or who left the money. I mean, some kind of a makeshift room which has got some rubbish articles in it. I mean, is it conceivable that you're going to have money of that amount? I mean, I had heard there were going to be sacks and sacks of money. Not a single sack was found intact or burnt. Where are those sacks? I mean, just to have 50 people examined, you examined the police and the fire brigade. Why did they not seize it? So you have some kind of a video which was uploaded by the Chief Justice, an unverified video. You just you see upload it, and the media itself, has played it to the gallery, to the hilt. Therefore, on that day itself, the judge's reputation is damned. So, I mean, just by saying 50 witnesses examined doesn't mean anything. You have to get to the bottom of it. And certainly this report does not get to the bottom.
So, if you feel that this report does not get to the bottom of it, then what next in this case? What next, for Justice Yarma?
As you said, it requires a fuller probe. Now, if Parliament has to, admit the motion of impeachment, there will be a fuller probe. There will be a proper 3 judges inquiry, which will go into everything. And I mean, there is no manner of doubt that inquiry will be an impartial inquiry with a right of participation. Because this report doesn't have the right of participation of the judge. It has damned the judge. It has only given him a chance of explanation. So he has given his explanation, which they didn't find to be appropriate. But the fact of the matter is that the basic modicum of natural justice in our country is that you get a chance to cross-examine a witness. You have 50, 60 witnesses, no chance of cross-examination is given. What is the worth of this report? Especially when it has no proper findings.
All right, Mukul Rohatgi, former Attorney General of India, I appreciate your time. Let me bring in Mahesh Jethmalani, now Senior Advocate of the Supreme Court, who's joining us live. Mr. Jethmalani, this report talks about half-burnt currency notes which were seen when the firefighters were putting out the blaze which spread to the storeroom in question. Many would say that this particular report completely nails Justice Yarma and shows that his family and only his family had access to the storeroom, and that there was no scope of any outsider getting access without permission. So my question then is this now an open and shut case?
Maria, your question has multi-dimensions, frankly. But yes, I mean, this inquiry report, finally in the public domain, certainly discloses or puts Justice Yarma in very poor light, right? In fact, there is a suggestion that there was an attempt to, or it actually happened that the money was removed from the premises after it was located, videoed, etc., by the fire and the police, and then it ceased to be there on the next day as well. So there are, the report itself has many startling findings, some which we've come to know about for the first time with the publication of this report. But, the issue is one of criminality. I keep repeating this in every interview which I've had on the subject, that impeachment is a process and a little cumbersome one, right? Which unfortunately, because the judge refuses to resign in spite of everybody calling upon him to do so, right? The parliament is forced to take because nobody has, it is only for removal of him from office, right? The criminality, right, has to be by virtue of a permission of the Chief Justice of India, which has been recognized by that very famous case in 1991 of 5 judges of the Supreme Court, right? That is of Veeraswamy's case. I mean, this incident now happened on the 14th of March, right? We are more than 3 months from the date of that fire and the discovery of this money. That it behoves the judiciary, right, to quickly clean up, and one way or the other, be fair as possible to Justice Verma, but to bring this to a swift conclusion, because every day that passes from that unfortunate episode, right, and of course some of the events in its aftermath, right? First a transfer, nothing done. Then Allahabad High Court sort of protests against them. Bar associations all over the country start howling, unfairness. Why should judiciary get? And then of course the whole process starts. So there has not only been, in my view, right, delay in the matter, but there's been some procedural reluctance as well in this case, which is most unfortunate, right? If the Chief Justice is the final authority for sanctioning a criminal case or the registration of an FIR against a High Court or Supreme Court judge, right, then suo motu it should have been done, right? All right, if Justice Sanjeev Khanna wanted to wait, Chief Justice Sanjeev Khanna, as he then was, wanted to wait for an inquiry report to fortify himself, right? That inquiry report was in his possession before he actually retired, right? What is the point? I mean, I find the ball being thrown all the time by the judiciary to the legislature or the government, right? So impeachment only removes, or will serve to remove, if successful, Justice Verma from office. Now, Justice Verma is obviously going to go out dragging and screaming, because if he were to resign, right, if he was to resign, he would lose the protection of Veeraswamy, which says he can't be prosecuted unless the Chief Justice gives sanction. So we are in a terrible catch situation, 22 situation, which only the Chief Justice now can resolve. So let's await the return. I'm told Chief Justice Gavai is abroad at the moment and is expected to return tomorrow. So let's hope things speed up on his return. This is, as you said, as I keep repeating, impeachment is only to remove him from office. His prosecution, if he is to be prosecuted at all, can only be by the sanction of the CJI of India. CJI.
Yes. Mr. Jethmalani, there is a contrarian view, which is that there are a lot of presumptions in this report. And this report will not be able to stand in the court of law. There are more questions than answers after this report has been submitted. So is there a sense of jumping the gun as well as, as far as this report is concerned? And is Justice Verma, has he not been given a fair hearing? I want to know your opinion on this.
Well, I don't think there's any contrarian view which doesn't say there should be a criminal investigation, right? If this kind of amount of cash was found, and if you read between the lines of the inquiry report, right, the money is of a while they don't quantify it, they keep saying huge amounts. I mean, the bundles of 500 are found both on the ledge and on the floor to be 1.5 feet high, and it says it covered from the door to the other end of the room. 500 rupee notes. So, this kind of money was found in the possession of any ordinary citizen, right? And the question is one of possession. Right? It was always a criminal offense, whichever way you looked at it, right? Whether this money was put there by Justice Verma or someone on his behalf, or whether it was put by anybody else, as he says, to falsely implicate him, this was always a criminal offense revealed, right? The only question was, who done it? And since judges were involved, the Chief Justice of India had to be informed, and he had to take a call on whether to sanction a criminal investigation against him or not. Now, after all this material, you let the public decide whether there's enough material for sanctioning at least an investigation. The investigation might, after all, find Justice Verma completely innocent. We have now gone through pre-FIR stages in the form of a 3-judge, 2 Chief Justice and another puny judge of a High Court. 3 of them have now had an inquiry. And they've said that there is enough material to suggest that that money belonged to Justice Verma. Short point. If that money belonged to Justice Verma as they held, right, is it not a case for a criminal prosecution? Because it's a clear-cut disreport assets by a public servant.
All right, Mr. Mahesh Jethmalani, really appreciate your time here on NDTV. So you heard from Harish Salve, Mukul Rohatgi, Mahesh Jethmalani. You can form your opinion with regards to this case. We are slipping into a short break. Coming up would be an exclusive interview with Karnataka Minister Priyank Kharge.
तू ही तो है जिसकी सच्चाई वाली क्लैरिटी की वजह से मैं आज यहाँ हूँ।
गोल्ड प्लस सिल्वॉक्सी मिरर्स, ऐसी क्लैरिटी कि आपको सिर्फ सच नजर आए, चाहे कितने भी साल बीत जाएं।
From the echo of the Trump tariffs to the geopolitical tensions in West Asia, and on the sidelines, a possible thaw in the frosty relations between India and Canada. I will bring you all the latest updates from the Kananaskis G7 Summit. NDTV, live from the G7 Summit in Canada.
How often have you turned away from debates that descend into endless fights? We bring you a show where every question is answered, where every debate finds its resolution, where every story finds its conclusion, where opinions collide but facts prevail, where stories unfold with insights and trust. When the noise ends, the last word begins.
If it matters to you, if it matters to you, if it matters to you, it matters to India, it matters to India, and it matters to me, and it matters to me.
India Matters with Shivaru, only on NDTV 24/7.
I've been reporting on all issues big and small from Andhra Pradesh, Telangana, rest of South India, bringing you all the action, all that you need to know, all that you want to know.
The energy of maximum city is infectious. I'm bringing that energy in our news coverage from financial capital Mumbai.
Covering from the southernmost part of India over the last 23 years, I bring in-depth and 360-degree coverage from the Dravidian heartland.
The land of Mishti, also known for its bitter politics. I have seen much water flow under the Howrah Bridge, covering Bengal in all its vivid colors.
India's IT capital is always bustling, a city full of startups, stories and surprises. And I keep you ahead on all the Bengaluru buzz.
The markets move fast.
And so should your portfolio. Expert insights, real-time stock picks.
Do I buy Ola?
Should I hold CDSL for the long term?
Buy, sell or hold.
The answers you need, straight from the experts.
Callers from India and across the world. Connect live, ask, decide and invest wisely.
Your portfolio, your future. Ask Profit.
In today's
And more news, Karnataka Minister Priyank Kharge, who was not given clearance for a visit to the United States, today alleged that he is being singled out for refusal and said he would question the Foreign Ministry about this treatment. I'm quoting him, "I will write to the Ministry of External Affairs why they denied clearances, why they denied support. The Chief Minister will write to Prime Minister Narendra Modi." That's what he has said in an exclusive interview with NDTV. Let's listen in.
Well, we here at NDTV had, of course, put out this information that Minister Priyank Kharge was denied clearance to visit the United States as a part of the state delegation. He's come back from Paris. He's joining us today here. So if you could tell us what exactly happened. Take us through the sequence of events. When were you supposed to visit the United States? What was on the agenda and why was the clearance denied?
See, I'm not sure on why the clearances were denied. Generally, when a delegation is denied clearances, they give us valid reasons. Right now, there are no valid reasons denied. Now, the problem here is that when a delegation that is being led by me does not get clearances, but when the same delegation minus me, only the official officers delegation with the same agenda, same objective is given, gets approved, and a cabinet rank colleague of mine, we send it separately, it gets approved for the same this thing. So I think the MEA has the answering to do, not me.
So, but why do you think here, when your name was sent, that approval didn't come in? Because you're saying Mr. Sharad Bachegauda's name was referred later. So what prompted you to think that if you remove your name, probably approvals will come in?
So you tell me, again, it's not my job to explain this. So we had sent saying that I am leading a delegation, gets disapproved. I take my name out, put the same delegation, put the same meetings objectives, put the same probable impact. We have not changed a full stop or a comma, that gets approved. So how am I supposed? And if the MEA gives valid explanation saying that, look, these are against the interests of the country or investment policy of the country, and this is something that you should not be indulging in, we're okay with that. Or if they say that this is not the right proposal, resend it with these things, we are okay with that also. We could have done that also, but not giving us any reason and just stamping a denied thing. I mean, I don't know, it's like as if you are deporting somebody.
What kind of a bearing will this have, sir, do you think, in terms of investments coming into the state of Karnataka?
See, if the Prime Minister of India is very serious of MAGA plus MEGA equals mega, he needs to ensure that there is an equal playing field for everybody. I don't know, and if ministers are not seen at the right places with the right people, how do you expect us to convince them to invest in India? And we are not saying, and whatever investments come to Karnataka always has a cascading effect to the government, to the nation as well. Today we are one of the biggest economic growth engines in the technology sector, in the ESDM sector, and the biotech sector. And if the government of India thinks that Karnataka will not be able to deliver, I wonder which state will be able to deliver.
Last question, you just mentioned that some of the other ministers from other states also were denied. Do you have any names? What information do you have?
I cannot speak on their behalf, but I have the right information saying that a lot of other state ministers also have been denied such clearances from the government of India.
Thank you for speaking to NDTV. Well, that was Mr. Priyank Kharge going on to state that, there have been some serious issues pertaining to his clearance, and that's primarily, he's saying that it was because his name was a part of that, a delegation request that it was not approved by the MEA, and he's saying that he'll seek answers from the centre and from the MEA about the same. With video journalist Govind, this is Deepak Bopana for NDTV.
Among the 241 people who lost their lives in the Air India plane crash in Ahmedabad on June 12th was First Officer Clive Kunder. The 32-year-old's body arrived from Ahmedabad this morning, a week after the crash, and was kept at the residence for over 2 hours for friends, family and neighbors to offer their final tributes. I'm leaving you with this.
The steady sound of drums and the cry of trumpets echoed outside the Kunder residence in Goregaon West. A tearful farewell as the final rites were performed for First Officer Clive Kunder, one of the 2 pilots who died in the crash of Air India flight AI-171. Friends, family and neighbors gathered at his home for an emotional goodbye. Clive's mortal remains were kept at the residence for a few hours before cremating it. His parents, sister and close relatives sat by his side in quiet grief as friends and neighbors paid their last respects.
He was a very, very ambitious man. I know him for the last 5-6 years. We've been working out very regularly in the gym. All here are my gym friends only. So very ambitious, lot of dreams. Amazing human. He was very down to earth. I never seen him sour or anything like that. He was always smiling. Would always greet anybody. No egos about him.
Later, as the coffin was taken for cremation, a brass band played slow, dignified music. The family walked closely behind, leaning on each other for strength. At the Sivri cemetery, prayers were offered by priests and family before Clive was laid to rest.
May his soul rest in peace. That's it.
How did you know him?
We are gym buddies since last 3 years. He was a gem of a person. Very down to earth, very humble.
Clive had joined Air India in 2017 and had clocked over 1,100 hours of flying time. On June 12, he was in the cockpit alongside Captain Sumit Sabharwal when AI-171 crashed within seconds after takeoff in Ahmedabad. What caused the crash is under investigation.
I mean, we are all Clive's gym friends, gym buddies. We all used to meet at that same time to work out and all. Of course, he used to travel, we used to travel, but other than that, he was a very great person. I'm like shattered, we are all shattered, we're not.
A young life cut short and a promising career in aviation lost. But for those who knew Clive, it is his warmth and humility they will miss the most.
गोल्ड प्लस ऑप्टिमिस्टिक रिफ्लेक्टिव ग्लास लगाओ, धूप की गर्मी को दूर भगाओ और बिजली का बिल भी बचाओ।
News is not just headlines, it is what impacts you. And news should never be mistaken for noise. What matters is the reality. Accurate, in-depth, and with the right perspective. For over 20 years, I have been a journalist, and never has clarity mattered more than now. At Newsnight, we go beyond the surface. We dissect the details, challenge the narratives, and bring you the unparalleled clarity you deserve in a world clouded by misinformation. We are bold, we are direct. Newsnight, for the news in your interest. Only on NDTV 24/7.
Why was there a hurry? Was it the government that was in a hurry?
I don't want to blame anyone.
Joining us today here in the NDTV newsroom.
Government cannot walk away from this responsibility.
Cricket is region of sort in this country.
Would you like to comment on what happened?
What is the condition of the injured at this point? How many people died?
What exactly happened? You have lost your daughter.
If it matters to you, if it matters to you, if it matters to you, it matters to India. It matters to India. It matters to India. And it matters to me. And it matters to me.
A very, very good evening. Now you're talking of the war drums that are literally deafening. Israel's Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu will not rule out striking Iran's supreme leader. You've heard that right. He's repeated that again. He says all options are on the table. After the Iranian missiles that you have seen who literally slammed into 4 sites there today, including a hospital, Israel has also hit back. What did they do? They targeted the Iraq nuclear reactor, but is the Iron Dome leaking? Again, that is a question that a lot of people are asking. What is happening? Why is Israel not able to repel the kind of attacks we are seeing on our screens? Does this mean that the Iron Dome is under pressure? It, remember, was the shield that once stopped absolutely everything, but now it has been pierced. It's a full-blown blitz that just may be hours away, and then you have 3 US warships. You have the B-52 stealth bombers. And Iran right now is encircled. It is also strike ready. You're talking of the US. So is Trump going to be backing Israel, or is Trump going to be leading the charge? This is an important question that everyone is asking. And in the middle of all this, the supreme leader of Iran, he is standing alone. He doesn't have allies anymore around him. There is no China, there is no Russia, there is absolutely no help coming in. And Trump, even Trump has been dining with Pakistan, imagine. The same Pakistan that inflicts terror against India, and then this man, the United States of America's president, is dining with Asim Munir. Can you really trust that man? I mean, there are so many questions as you watch this, also from India looking at this. And how is it that you can have good terrorist and bad terrorist? What happens next? But first up, as always, we get you breaking updates on a story that is developing in real time. And as promised, you have the first response from Benjamin Netanyahu, who earlier was at one of the sites that has been attacked earlier, that has seen some bit of damage. And Benjamin Netanyahu again has reiterated that same warning. He says all options are on the table. He's again urged the US to say that you have to get into this war because we have to ensure that right now there could be no nuclear threat. And more details of what we've heard from him are flashing on your screens as Iran has struck that Israeli hospital. And you also have Israel saying that Iran has crossed the line. Let's listen into that reaction coming in.
We're targeting military sites. We're targeting nuclear sites. We're targeting missile sites. They're targeting a hospital. In this hospital, there are patients who are immobile. They can't even move. Right next to it is a children's ward, a baby's ward, infants. They're targeting civilians because they're a criminal regime. They're the arch terrorists of the world. They want to have nuclear terrorism, which will put the entire world under nuclear blackmail, and they would use these weapons. That's what the Ayatollah Khamenei says that he would do. He would use these weapons to wipe Israel off the map. Well, he's not going to. We're not going to let him. President Trump will do what's best for America. I trust his judgment.
Let's get you more breaking updates coming in. The IRGC, in fact, has said that this is the 15th wave of attacks on Israel that has been launched through missiles, through drones, and they've all targeted Tel Aviv. In fact, the Haifa military sites are also under attack as we speak. We'll get you those images also on your screens. Iran has struck the military industrial centers, and about 100 combat drones have been launched. These are also suicide drones. They've targeted the air defense system. The IRGC has vowed that there are going to be more missile strikes. So even right now when you're speaking, you're looking at these images on your screens. There is absolutely no let up. It is day 7 of this big escalation that you're seeing, and clearly now you have people getting really worried about how far this escalation could go. Let's also, without wasting more time, get you the quick 5 war updates. What has happened in the day so far that you must know? There are a lot of these dramatic images also that we'll play out on your screens, the ones that you see there. Israel, remember, has attacked the Iranians' Arak heavy water reactor. This has again drawn a lot of sharp response from around world capitals. Those are those images that I'm just referring to. The second big war update that you need to know is that Iran has also struck an Israeli hospital. The images are very, very disturbing. You see patients, you see children all lying there in blood. We also did later see Benjamin Netanyahu rushing to the spot, and from there, he's again put out that clear warning. This is our third breaking update on the story where Iran also, right now, as we speak, is facing almost a near total internet blackout. So there is no way that you might have these videos coming out in real time and information coming in real time. So a lot of this that you will see on your screens could possibly be delayed. But the action is happening right now. This brings us to our fourth important war update, where Israel has claimed that 2/3 of the Iranian missile silos have been hit. This is important because looking at ballistic missiles being used, even the cruise missiles, and now Israel saying that about 2/3 of the Iranian missile silos have been hit as far as this particular development is concerned. And the fifth important war update that again you must know about is that the IDF has claimed that Iran has launched 450 ballistic missiles. 450 is what the IDF claims. But a lot of this, remember, is about the Iron Dome. Where is the Iron Dome? Is it still working? Is it under pressure? And that's going to be our next update that we are now putting our focus on. Because clearly, how are you looking at Iran being able to attack and their missiles actually breaching that Iron Dome, getting inside, hitting hospitals and even the stock exchange? And I want to quickly now request our team to put out those graphics to help you understand what are we talking about the Iron Dome. Is that, again, a point of concern as far as Israel is concerned? And let's play that out if possible, please. And we'll be looking at those details on your screens in just a moment. But you're also reading those breaking developments of what Netanyahu has again said, and they are lauding Trump. They believe that Trump can get into this war right now, and we can have a very, very different response. So is the Iron Dome under pressure? Why we say this? Look at the entire sequence of events. June the 19th, that is earlier today, you have the Iranian missile that hit the Soroka hospital. It actually breaches the Iron Dome. It hits the hospital. 240 plus people are injured right now, a lot of them grievously. Let's bring up the second important detail as far as the Iron Dome is concerned, and that's now on your screens. Is this now a new threat? Why we say this is because multi-warhead ballistic missiles have breached the defenses of the Iron Dome of Israel. Do remember during Operation Sindoor, there was a lot of conversation about this Iron Dome, and India also has a similar response system, and that is why we were able to repel a lot of these missiles and drones that came in from Pakistan. And likewise, let's get the third important pointer also on our screens. Now, there has been a barrage. So when you continuously keep firing, the idea is to ensure that the defense system weakens. Now, 400 plus missiles is what the Iron Dome has been able to receive so far. There are drones, there are cruise attacks in just 6 days. Look at the number, 400 missiles in 6 days. That is how bad the situation has become. Let's bring up our next important pointer. This is about the interception rate. When you have a missile, when you have the Iron Dome, how many are intercepted? That is what you would want to know. About 90% of the missiles are being intercepted is what the IDF claim, and the breaches are still happening. One of the breach was again what happened at the Soroka hospital earlier today, where we have seen people sustaining injuries. This brings us to our next important point. Is there a tactic that has been employed by Iran, to ensure that this becomes, the Iron Dome becomes overloaded, because of which it stops functioning, or there are problems here? Because Iran is saturating the Iron Dome with continuous barrage of missiles. That possibly could also explain the reason of this saturation. System is strained. There are Arrow missile stocks that are critically low right now, and they need a resupply. And that is why, again and again, you're looking at Israel that is urging the US to get into this war. They say you have to stop Iran at all costs. This brings us to our next important point. What is the US support you're talking about in this entire Iron Dome? Remember, there is another system that is called the Patriot and the THAAD systems that are also deployed. So it is not just the Iron Dome, it is the Patriot and the THAAD system that are also working right now to repel all these missiles, all these drone launches that are coming from Iran. But would it be fair to say that the Iron Dome has collapsed? For the moment, no. It is not a collapse. Why? Because the dome is still working, but yes, it has been stretched thin. It is working more than what possibly its capacity is. For how long can it sustain is also a question we will answer during the course of this show here. Now, is there a tactical shift when you look at Iran? Because Iran has started to evolve new missile designs, and the idea is to have a smarter attack so that you can breach the Iron Dome and hit at Israel. So who really is funding Iran? That is also a question you must ask. Who are those powers standing with Iran who's helping Iran in this technology? So what is next? The critical important question. There could be more breaches. That is likely. And Israel, like I said, needs an urgent resupply. All of this is also going to be coming in from the US, but Israel time and again has said that this is not just a regional war, not just about Iran and Israel. This is a huge war about the geopolitics of the region, and this is where the US needs to come in. Now, who else but a very important guest that I want to introduce on this show. His name is Amir Avivi. He's a Brigadier General of the Reserve, the ultimate insider of the IDF. Amir, if I may introduce you like that, I will, ask you the upfront question. Is the Iron Dome leaking? Is it failing? Is it under pressure?
The air defense of Israel is working very well. These ballistic missiles that are being shot at Israel are intercepted mostly by Arrow 3. This system intercepts these ballistic missiles in space, and it has more than 90% success, but it's hard to reach 100%. So occasionally there is a ballistic missile that manages to go through the Israeli air defense that is also coupled with American air defense. And this requires the citizens of Israel to be alert and ready and inside the bunkers.
Okay, Amir, what you say is important, but tell me something. Is the Iron Dome still reliable? I mean, this could be a real cause of concern. Though you say that Israel right now is able to deal with the situation effectively, but are we also talking and looking at a post-Iron Dome era now?
So we see that Israel is managing to destroy systematically the ballistic capabilities of Iran. Iran wanted to shoot hundreds of ballistic missiles on each event, but they are not managing to do so, and they are shooting less and less. Israel destroyed more than 40% of the launchers in Iran. And at the moment, Israel is perfectly capable of defending its airspace, and it's working well both on offensive and in the defense of Israel.
Okay, Amir, I think there are so many more important points about the Iron Dome that we must be talking about in the next few minutes. But I'm just requesting you to stay with us as I want to wind up this conversation and look at what is the role of the US. How far is the US willing to go? What is the US doing right now as we speak? Because don't forget, no matter what Donald Trump might want to tell you that, he's not telling anyone what he wants to know. But let's put up details of what America is doing right now. And these are details that you must know. Now, in the center here is Iran. If you're wondering where is the US, where is Israel, wait for the details to come in, because I'm going to tell you more about the US military footprint in the Middle East. All the bases that the US has been able to set up very, very close to Iran. We let those graphics come on our screens one by one. The first important detail is Qatar. Now, in Qatar, you have a base that is called the Al Udeid Air Base. What is important for you to know as far as this air base is concerned? It is the largest US military base. It has about 100 aircrafts and an equal number of drones. About 8,000 troops is what can be stationed at this particular base in Qatar. It's a major air operations hub. And look at the distance between Qatar and Iran to help you understand what has the US's game plan been. We'll bring up the next location now on our screens, and you continuously should look at Iran and the next distance. Very tiny dot there next to Qatar is you will see Bahrain. Now, what is important in Bahrain for you to know is that the base is called the Naval Support Activity. This can house about 9,000 personnel. So look at the numbers and keep adding those numbers, because about 40,000 to 50,000 US personnel are stationed over all these bases. Then the US Navy's 5th Fleet Headquarters, again at Bahrain, and the distance between Bahrain and Iran for you to know very, very quickly. Let's bring up the next location also as we'll keep expanding this map. The next location here is Saudi Arabia. Again, this has been in the news, it's been in the conversation. The base is the Prince Sultan Air Base. 2,700 troops can be stationed at this particular point. It's a strategic air power base that is essentially used by the US. Brings us to our next important location on this map. This is in Kuwait. And keep looking at the location, how America has ensured that Iran is encircled, because its presence there in the Middle East is equally important. Now in Kuwait, you have the Camp Arif Jan. What is important about this camp is that this is located about 55 kilometers southeast of the Kuwaiti city. Key logistics and a joint force base is what the Camp Arifjan is all about. This brings us to our next important detail that's going to go up on your map, and this is the UAE, where you have the Al Dhafra Air Base. 3,500 troops. 3,500 troops can be stationed here on this particular base. It also hosts advanced aircrafts like the F-22 Raptor stealth fighters. It also houses surveillance planes, including drones, intel, surveillance, and strike operations. So look at the kind of machines, look at the kind of men, the numbers, the manpower that the US has been able to ensure, and this is just not it. We have another location, this is Iraq. So if you look at the entire axis that is being created next to Iran here in red, you will understand the significance of all these bases that have been in operation for the longest time. Now in Iraq, you have the Arbil Air Base. It's been used by the US forces for air operations in northern Iraq and in Syria in particular. So this is how you have Iran already getting encircled, but just not it. We'll get you more details also of what more is the US doing as we speak to ensure that there is enough and more pressure on Iran right now to buckle down or else face the consequences. I want to go back to Amir and ask him the next important question. As we've been looking, Amir, at a lot of this conversation about the US and everything else, but talking again of the Iron Dome, and because we see a lot of these missiles still being picked up, intercepted, how many more such waves you think that Israel can absorb before you have real gaps that start to open up and before you have more damage that possibly could be caused?
So I think that this war is going to be not more than 2 more weeks. Iran is going to fall. This regime is going to fall. The Israelis are dominating Iranian skies. It took us 2 days to bring this regime on its knees, and IDF is operating freely all over Iran, destroying their nuclear sites and capabilities, and also systematically degrading the government's capability to rule. So really the big question is how long it will take until the regime falls or Iran surrenders. And we're not far away. And the big question is America going into the fight? Are we going to see strategic bombers also participating in the destruction of the nuclear sites? And this we'll know in the coming 2 days.
So, Amir, you've touched on a lot of important points. You've spoken of a regime change that you're looking at in Iran. You've also spoken about how long possibly you can sustain, and you're saying 2 weeks. You're also speaking of the role of the US. Now, tell me more about this. How long before you believe that you can have a regime change in, Iran? How will you do this? And what is the role of the US?
So I think that when we see a regime that wants to eradicate completely the state of Israel, that is seeking nuclear capabilities, that is shooting indiscriminately citizens, the messages we hear from the Minister of Defense and the Prime Minister of Israel is, we are not ruling the possibility of eliminating the head of the regime. And we might see it in the coming week or two. I think that Israel is perfectly capable of defending its airspace for a long time, and long before we'll have issues with air defense, this war is going to be won decisively against Iran.
Okay, so I heard those words, and I think our viewers must have also heard those words. You have an ultimate IDF insider who says just 2 weeks, and he also does say that it just took 2 days for this regime in Iran to actually come down on its knees. Amir, I'm again requesting you to stay with us, as I want to touch more upon a point that he just made. This is the role of the US. Remember, we just told you more about how Iran has just gotten encircled with a lot of these bases. But what more is the US doing right now as we speak? What are the kinds of machines that are already out, at least in the skies and at least in water? We'll bring up those details now on our screens one by one. Remember, as the US is ramping up the military presence, now there is this aircraft carrier that is called the USS Nimitz. It's a very, very important name. It's a very important detail for anyone interested in understanding how do you do this firefighting and a lot of these things. It has been redeployed to West Asia. So it was in another part of the world and it has been moved towards West Asia. It's a huge carrier. It's a huge carrier and it can carry about 5,000 personnel just on this carrier and 60 plus aircraft. Just think of it, how huge this is going to be, where you have 60 plus aircraft right on top of this carrier. And that is already on the move as we speak. And over on top of this, you have 30 KC-135 Stratotankers. These again are heavy machines that are used by the US and KC-46A Pegasus. And all of them right now are being moved towards Europe. So there is a movement. Why is this movement happening right now? Is this just a pressure tactic, or there is a plan that Donald Trump is working accordingly? And there are also aerial refueling planes. I mean, these are planes that can actually refuel a lot of these fighter jets while they are in air. All of them being shifted to Europe again as we speak. Is this just a coincidence? We will let our viewers decide this. And all this, what does this entail? What does this tell us? That this is about readiness for extended operations. Because we do not know for how long this is going to continue. Today is day 7 of this entire escalation, and the US obviously right now is giving a lot of important signals. So Amir, when you talk of a lot of these signals as far as the US is concerned, I want to know one thing. Do you believe that Israel today is feeling abandoned by the US? Because this is the same US and the same Donald Trump who's having a lunch with Asim Munir, the same man who's responsible for the Pahalgam terror attack. I mean, so much for the hypocrisy of America when it comes to terror.
Israel and the US are fully coordinated throughout this war. The US is assisting a lot Israel with intelligence, with air defense capabilities, and we're hoping to see the US also attacking, because this is not just about Iran. Israel can deal with Iran. This is about really stabilizing the globe, because if the US says, if we are not shot, we're not going to intervene, the message to China is, okay, we'll invade Taiwan. We are not going to shoot Americans. Or the Russians will invade other countries in Europe and will not attack Americans. Does it mean America is not going to intervene? So this is a global issue. It's not just a regional issue, and it's not just about Iran. Israel can perfectly manage with Iran. The question is, are we going to stabilize the globe, or it is going to destabilize and we'll see more wars coming in the future?
Okay, Amir, but I must also just be very brute. Can you and can Israel really trust Donald Trump, who calls Pakistan name earlier? He calls Pakistan deceitful. And today he's saying that Pakistan is a strong and a responsible ally. So is it the credential of Donald Trump also under question here?
President Trump is seeking really an alliance, a Western, Israeli, moderate Sunni alliance that will extend all the way to Indonesia. And India has a big part in this alliance in creating new routes of trade. And President Trump wants to see more countries siding with the US. And we respect that. But at the end of the day, we also hope to see leadership. This is a time for Churchills, not Chamberlains. And we're hoping to see President Trump coming as a Churchill, just as Netanyahu is leading this war. And if the US goes into the fight, this war will shorten a lot. It will save a lot of lives. And attacking Iran, it's not about beginning a war. Attacking Iran means the end of the war. It means bringing down the Shia axis and ending the war in the Middle East and moving towards peace agreements and prosperity.
Okay, I think what you said again is very, very important. And I do realize that these are very difficult times. And clearly the leadership of Donald Trump is what you people also hope is going to come forward. Amir, I'm just again requesting you to stay with me as I want to expand this conversation again to US, what the US is doing. So remember, we've seen about the bases encircling of Iran. Then we got you details of the military footprint that you see of the US again right now, and a lot of more push. But now I want to talk about a plane. Now you must be thinking, what is this plane got to do with Iran versus Israel? But let me bring up the details, because this is a plane that interestingly has been spotted over Washington in the last few hours, and people are curious, what is this plane doing there? What is this plane called? This is America's doomsday plane. This is almost a representational video that you see on your screens, just an image of this. It is actually called the doomsday plane. But this is a Boeing E-4B Night Watch. This is the technical name of this particular plane that again has drawn a lot of eyebrows as it was spotted in Washington. Now this is nicknamed the Flying Pentagon. Think of this. This plane is called the Flying Pentagon. Obviously for a reason, Pentagon represents the defense headquarters of the US. More details on your screens. This plane, why is it special? Because this can survive nukes, any kind of nuclear weapon, it is resistant to it. It can also survive cyber attacks, absolutely unaffected by it. And not just this, even the electromagnetic interference, nothing can bother this plane. That is how sturdy this is, and that is why this is so special. Now, it has a mobile war command for the president. So you can have the president, you can have the vice president, all important people when it comes to the government, all who travel on this, and they can be in touch with whoever they want to. Then this can also launch retaliatory strikes mid-air. It can be in the air and it can still strike back. That is the kind of capability that this particular plane has. Now there are about 4 of such planes that the US has, 4, and one of them is always on the standby, as in one of them is always ready with all preparations, with all systems and checks in places. This can carry 112 personnel on board. Again, for you, important to remember this number. It can fly 7,000 plus miles. It can stay airborne for about 35 hours, more than a day. This plane can actually be in the air. So this plane is spotted over Washington. It takes an unusually different route, is what a lot of news reports tell us. What is Trump planning? What is US planning? Is there already a plan in place? Clearly a question that we still don't have an answer to. But I want to go back to Amir with that particular question and a lot more, Amir. As we were discussing all these details, and I have to talk about this fight against terror. You know, both India and Israel have borne the brunt of terror. Both countries have drawn their own red lines. But when it comes to the US, do you feel still that the US needs to do a lot more in this fight against terror?
Yes, definitely. We want to, the relationship of Israel and India is very, very strong. And it's a strong alliance. And we want to deepen it. And we really appreciate this friendship. And we have a lot of cooperation talking about military exchange of knowledge and so on. And we definitely want to strengthen this. And I think that moving towards the Abraham Accords, normalizing relations with Saudi Arabia, and really connecting the trade between India and the Middle East through Israel, this is the key to strengthening these relations.
Okay, Amir, as we were having this conversation, on our screens are 2 defining images. One is Ayatollah, the supreme leader of Iran. The other is Saddam Hussein. I want to ask you that, do you believe that an assassination possibly could happen of the supreme leader? Is that what Israel could be wanting to do?
It's very serious because we understand that it's not enough to destroy the nuclear sites or ballistic missile capability. If this regime stays, so in 2 or 3 years, we'll see the regime again seeking the destruction of Israel and the West. And I think this is terrible. 80% of the Iranians don't want this regime. It's oppressing them. It's endangering and destabilizing the whole Middle East. And I think we have a true opportunity to do a real change that will impact for generations in the Middle East and bring down the civil regime that is really seeking global domination.
All right, Amir Ravivi, for the moment, thank you so much. So a regime change or an assassination is what Israel speaks about. Donald Trump says, I know what I have to do, but I'm not telling you just yet. But NDTV will continue to keep you on top of that story. Thank you so much for watching. Good night.
As the Iran-Israel war escalates, Indian students in the crossfire.
As soon as possible evacuate kiya jaye.
War zone worries grip parents. The next Indian mass evacuation ahead. NDTV at Ground Zero.
Is your business future ready? Join the 13-week strategic ESG certification program for business sustainability and growth for CXO and business leaders by NDTV, Terry and Zenora. Master global ESG frameworks, gain real-world tools and lead with impact. Starts July 13th. Enroll now and power your business with sustainability.
Do you really know the company you invest in? What is the real picture behind presentations and claims? Is the outlook as rosy as the company claims? Know Your Company, powered by NDTV Profit Research, shines a light on the biggest stock market movers.
From the echo of the Trump tariffs to the geopolitical tensions in West Asia. And on the sidelines, a possible thaw in the frosty relations between India and Canada. I will bring you all the latest updates from the Kananaskis G7 Summit. NDTV, live from the G7 Summit in Canada.
How often have you turned away from debates that descend into endless fights? We bring you a show where every question is answered, where every debate finds its resolution, where every story finds its conclusion, where opinions collide but facts prevail, where stories unfold with insights and trust. When the noise ends, the last word begins.
If it matters to you, if it matters to you, if it matters to you, it matters to India. It matters to India. And it matters to me. And it matters to me.
India Matters with Shivaru. Only on NDTV 24/7.
I've been reporting on all issues big and small from Andhra Pradesh, Telangana, rest of South India, bringing you all the action, all that you need to know, all that you want to know.
The energy of maximum city is infectious. I'm bringing that energy in our news coverage from financial capital Mumbai.
Covering from the southernmost part of India over the last 23 years, I bring in-depth and 360-degree coverage from the Dravidian heartland.
The land of Mishti, also known for its bitter politics. I have seen much water flow under the Howrah Bridge, covering Bengal in all its vivid colors.
India's IT capital is always bustling, a city full of startups, stories and surprises. And I keep you ahead on all the Bengaluru buzz.
The markets move fast.
And so should your portfolio. Expert insights, Real-time stock picks.
Do I buy Ola?
Should I
or
hold CDSL for the long term?
Buy, sell or hold.
The answers you need, straight from the experts.
Callers from India and across the world. Connect live, ask, decide and invest wisely.
Your portfolio, your future. Ask Profit.
In today's interconnected world, India's voice is more crucial than ever. When India speaks, the world listens. At NDTV World, we are that voice, bringing you intelligent and insightful news from India and beyond. From geopolitics and diplomacy to economic shifts, migrations, tech disruptions, and the stories of our diaspora. We cover the news that shapes our global future. NDTV World, your new home for global news is here.
Hello and welcome to this very special presentation. I'm Usama Shab and I have with me Rika Roy. There is a lot lined up on the show today. It is India's English Test. We dive headfirst into a new era for Indian cricket. The iconic trio of Rohit, Kohli and Ashwin. They may have stepped aside, but the red ball revolution, it is just beginning. As the World Test Championship cycle kicks off, all eyes are on this young, dynamic leader who's ready to make his mark. Get ready as Shubman Gill leads India into a monumental 5-match test series against England. Can this new-look Indian side conquer English conditions? And Rika, the big question is, can they lay down an early marker in the World Test Championship cycle?
Well, a new era is what is beginning right now in red ball cricket for India, because it is going to be led by a new captain, Shubman Gill. Much like one of the men that the series is named after, Sachin Tendulkar, Indian captain, will bat at number 4. He brings in a fresh approach to the blueprint that has been handed down to him by his predecessors. Ravi Shastri may not be mincing his words to say that it's going to be a tough ask, it's not going to be easy, but not having any baggage can make this band of boys dangerous this summer. Take a look.
So in my opinion, winning a test series in England, Australia, New Zealand, South Africa are bigger. I think you're going to have to wait till August to see what kind of style is that going to be. We also play to get results.
It is New India's new voice of leadership. Shubman Gill, eloquent, cheeky, quirky and a straight-talking batter. In his first press conference on English soil as India's red ball captain. A day ahead of the first test in Leeds, he spoke on what could make a difference in the series.
We all are very motivated. We don't really have any baggage coming to England because not all of the players have really been to England. So that could be one thing that really makes the difference for us, because we wouldn't be carrying any baggage.
With India's number 4 and number 5 slots settled, there were obvious questions on the number 3. But the team prefers to wait till the morning of the match because the English summer has been unusual. Even the curator expects Leeds to offer a flat surface post day 1, making batting easy.
This summer has been a little bit different to the other English summers. It's been a little bit dry, so I was just waiting to see the wicket one last time. If you want to win a test match, you can't win a test match without taking 20 wickets, no matter how many runs you score. So that has been one of our key discussion points, how we're going to take 20 wickets. We have maybe 1 or 2 different combinations.
England will be powered by the return of Chris Woakes, who has been termed as the leader of the English bowling attack by their skipper. Captain Ben Stokes said, "Since me and Baz have been captain and coach, I don't think we have actually lost a